The talk today is about movie script. Your movie script. Your movie script, because you're the producer, the director, the writer, the casting director of your play of life. You bring in all of these people that play a part in your life. So there is something that attracts them into your life, whether it's for a short period of time or a long period of time. Sometimes we don't know. And that's why we're drawn sometimes. You know, have you ever met somebody where there's that instant connection and you don't know why? And sometimes it's the beginning of a long relationship, and sometimes you never see that person again. But there's a reason why. There's an impact. There's an impact on you, and there's an impact on them. And it's part of the movie script. It's what happens. Stanley Kubrick said, "It's crazy how you can get yourself in a mess sometimes, and not even be able to think about it with any sense, and yet not be able to think about anything else." Has that ever happened? Do you know what I'm talking about? That happens to me once in a while. I call it my monkey mind or my hamster on a wheel. It just is this, spinning, spinning. It ain't going anywhere. There's no solution in sight. But it just wants to go, and that's what happens. And that's kind of reminded me when Leslie was singing. I thought, you know, that's what happens. It's, sometimes things happen to us, and they grab a hold of us. And they take on more importance than they really justifiably deserve. But we give them that star attraction. We shine the spotlight on them. You know, and sometimes what we have realized is that our children, or those of us who have not had children, who have children in our lives, will know that there are times that children make impossible requests. Like they'll say, "Daddy, can I have a pony?" And you live downtown San Diego. In an apartment. And, or they'll say, you know, you can decide that you want to do battle and say, "Oh no, that's a ridiculous idea, don't usually where we live." You can do that, but usually what you do is, if you're a parent and an adult or a young child, is you're really benevolent, you're kind. You say, "Oh no, that, you know, we can talk about that later, or maybe another time," but you don't really have to confront, you kind of just let it go by, right? Or another one is, you know, "Can we go to Disneyland tomorrow?" And of course tomorrow is Tuesday. And what you can say is, you know, "Well, not now, but maybe later." Because you don't know, maybe later is good. So the question is, why are we willing to do that with our children, but not with ourselves? Why are we willing to be benevolent and kind and moving our children from the impossible into maybe later? Because a lot of times what happens to us is we get fixated on something and we think we want it now. We want it in our life right now. Microwaving is not fast enough. We want it now. And we don't understand, and we think God's not listening. And since I believe God is within us, where are we not listening to ourselves? Where are we not paying attention to our highest good? For it's really coming, it's unfolding. It just may not show up the way. It may not be the pony. It may look like something a little bit different. But you've written the movie script, and sometimes when we talk about in religious science about co-creating your universe, we're talking about you co-creating with the power of God for the universe within you. There is something greater than we are, which is what I call the divine presence. But I know that I am one with it, as I know each one of you are one with it. And I know that as I co-create my life, I tap into that resource, into that wisdom, into that skill, into the unknowingness, and what I call the adventure. Because can you imagine if you wrote a script, a movie script that have absolutely nothing of excitement in it, would you go back and see it again? Would you pay? I think it's almost like $15 now to go to a movie. I don't go to many movies. But would you pay? You wouldn't. And yet many of us want our lives to be that way. We want our lives to look like a flat line in a hospital. That isn't the way life is. And you really, if you think about it, you came in and you're kind of juicing it. By that I mean, I realize that's too much slang. But you really are. You're adding a little bit of life, a little vitality to your life. You want this. Yes, you may want this peace and you may want this quiet, but you also want a little bit of difference. You want something that's not flatlining. You want something that is moving, So, it reminded me, I had to look online for this joke for, this director was shooting a movie, and he had an actor come up and to him, and he wanted to know about the scene, and the director says, well, now we're going to release this lion, and it will chase you. But don't worry, it won't bite you. And the actor says, are you sure? And the director says, it's written in the script. So the actor says, has a lion read the script? So the idea is, it's in the script. But we invite lions in. We invite lions into our life. And some of them are big pussy cats and purr. And some will bite the hand that feeds them. So, you just want to be aware and attuned, but understand how it all works and how it comes in, and it's all part of your life. And it's how we react to there. Oscar Wilde said, a man who is a master of himself can end a sorrow as easily as he can invent a pleasure. Do you get that, how magical that is? To me, it's really such a twist of what we can do. It's about choice of life, right? A man who is a master of himself, a master of our own thoughts. Because you are a master of your own thoughts. Of himself can end a sorrow as easily as he can invent a pleasure. I don't want to be at the mercy of my emotions. I want to use them, to enjoy them, and to dominate them. That means you control them. They're about you and you are about it. You can do all of these. So when you say there's an article in this Joyful Journal which I really like, because it says when you're coming from your heart, or that something just doesn't feel right, when you say that about something, sometimes you say, oh, it's coming from my heart, or it just doesn't feel right. You want to check in and think, is it really coming from my emotions? Is it really coming from something from the past, or is it really coming from the heart center? That center that really is the connection to the divine. That center which absolutely believes that all is whole, perfect, and complete. So where are you coming from when you say that? And then that's kind of important to check in with yourself and really know where you are coming from and how you're reacting. I had an instance, as I often do when I'm working on a talk. I usually get this talk written about midweek, so that means I start thinking about it a couple of days beforehand. I write it, and then I have a couple of days which the universe works on me. And so this week, it had showed up on Friday, and it says, so you really like this bracelet thing, don't you? Uh-oh. You really do, you just are just cock of the walk. You just are having too much fun and it's making all these changes in your life. And it says, yes, I am guilty. I love it. So my computer decided to get an instant virus. Actually, it helped that from me. I am not an innocent bystander in this by any means. But all of a sudden, I have a touch screen, and my touch wouldn't work on the screen. And I would click on various things, and it just did not work. And all of a sudden, my computer talks to me, and it says, call this number, you have a serious virus. And it was a Microsoft number, and I call it, and they turned me over to somebody. I had 5,000 errors that permeated my computer almost instantly. Well, that wasn't the big deal. That was just opening the theater, right? That was the next, this scene 2 in the movie. And what happens is they connect me into a service center, which I believe is probably in Bangladesh. That is only important because I don't speak with that accent. And I don't really understand. And I had difficulty understanding the person on the other end of the line. I kept asking him to repeat himself. And part of me, my old personality was showing up. That's what I became so aware. My old personality was frustrated and wanted that person to speak like me. Hello? Nobody speaks like me. Thank heavens. And so what I found out is I was getting frustrated, and I kept saying, I'm sorry, I cannot understand you. I heard 2 words and I don't understand the third. Please repeat yourself. And then I said, I think your mouth is too close to the phone. I said, I can't really get everything blurry. But I noticed that the tension in my body was building. And when I realized it, I thought, aha! This is my check. This is what's going on. I'm becoming aware. I'm having conscious awareness of what I'm doing. So what it gave me a chance, all of a sudden, the tension started to leave my body because I thought, hey, this guy's helping me. I don't care what language he's speaking. I can't fix my computer. He can. So I all of a sudden was in this, let's see what we're going to... He turned me over to a supervisor who had much clearer reception, much clearer diction. He started to work. It took over an hour, almost 2 hours to fix everything that happened on my computer. They took care of all of it. It cost me a few dollars. It was not free with my Microsoft account. But they fixed it. They did something which was awesome. What I'm sharing with you is, in the old days, I would have gotten up on my high horse. My blood pressure probably would have gone from 110 up to 160, but it didn't. What I love about this and why I'm still wearing this, and actually I'm still on my track, is it's like my coach. It's like a coach that's always with me. It is a coach that says, Jerry, listen, think about what you're feeling, because I feel it in my body before it comes out of my mouth, because it's my emotions are packed inside of here. So what I love about this is, since I'm writing my movie script, I'm director, I get to make some choices. I get to make alternative choices. But the big aha moment was for me is I realized how different I am today than I was a year ago. And I thought, wow, I really like this. I really like the fact that I can look at what's going on in my life. And now the events of my life are not any different than they would have been a year ago. How I responded to them was totally different. And then all of a sudden I wanted to call my son and share with him. I thought, did I ever used to really be a difficult guy to get along with? Was I one of these demanding people? Because I had all these thoughts that flashed in my mind of how at times it was so much easier to just want to demand things and have other people be like I wanted them to be. And yet that's not who they were, and that's not who they were cast out to be. And if we think about the fact that everybody in our life is an actor, and we invite them into our play of life to play a part, it's just like I invited this person in. I invited the virus in. I invited by the way, my computer worked perfectly today. It worked perfectly yesterday. I mean, by the time it was all done, it's all fixed. And as a matter of fact, they even fixed some things that had bugged me about it before. So what I like is I called him in, but I also got called into him. And we do this in our life, and what we have to realize, or we don't have to, I invite you to realize, is that how you react to situations is really up to you. You can take it personally, or you can realize it's just a play. Mm-hmm. And then it gets into the 4 agreements of Don Ruiz. Don't take anything personally. That's one of the 4 agreements. And if we can remember that, the play in our life becomes an adventure. It's like up on the big screen. Only it's in your living room. It's in your life. But you can really start to have a change, and it's really about becoming aware. And why I'm sharing my personal experience with you is I'm on this journey too. So it's not the destination, it's the journey, it's the awareness, it's what happens to you. And I get excited about what happens to me. I get excited when I look and say, wow, I used to be this way, and at least in this instance, I was this way, and I like this way so much better. This way seems to be healthier for me in so many different levels, not just my blood pressure, but on every level. And think of how much better it made his day. The poor guy was just trying to help me. And all of a sudden I transferred into this person who wanted to partner with him. I wanted to help him help me. Because I knew that I didn't know and he did. So what we might want to ask ourselves is, how can we be kinder to ourselves in the process? How can we be kinder to other people? How can we understand that we're all part of this role playing? We're all in this together. We're all going towards a different destination. I want to say different. We're all going to the same destination. We're all taking different routes to get there. My route's not the same as yours. Thank heavens, it'd be a really crowded highway. Besides, I was thinking highway, and I was reminded of that how the roads in Boston got created. It was used to follow the cow paths and things like that. And I was thinking how bumpy they all were, and I was just thinking that's the way sometimes our lives get. And so I don't want your bumpy life any more than you want mine. But sometimes when we want people to be a certain way, there was another story I wanted to share. It was about spouses. 2 guys are out fishing, and they're sitting by the riverbank, and they're throwing a line in, and after a while, one of them says, I'm thinking about getting a divorce. And the other one says, why? And he says, because my spouse hasn't spoken to me in 2 weeks. And the other person said, I'd reconsider if it was you. Such spouses are rare. We try to make people different than we are. And there's a gift in everything. Some of us want people who talk more, and some of us wish they wouldn't. And it's all part of the act. It's all part of the casting. It's all part of how we do it all. Thomas Edison said the value of an idea lies in using it. So the idea there is, where are you connected to the divine? How do you see yourself connected to the divine? Because if you are co-creating this play of your life with God, how do you see your connection? There's an example in this Joyful Living Journal, which when I read it, I thought, how many people are going to know this or relate to it? Because they said, have you ever watched a telephone man or a service person open up a box on the street corner with all these wires inside? And I thought, do they even have those anymore? But I remember that we used to have these boxes when you'd open them up. They have all these red and greens and blue wires going over, and I suppose that's why you can't be colorblind and be a technician to make all these wires. That is very complicated circuitry. But the story in there is, all that complicated circuitry doesn't do any good if no one uses it. So the invitation is, you have a much cleaner circuitry the divine, do you use it? That is the question. It's not complicated. Do you use it? And sometimes the using it is as simple as, recently I had something where my hamster wheel was really active in my mind about some particular issue, and I couldn't get it to let go. And finally I said, I surrender. I do not know what to do in this situation, and I don't want to think about it anymore. And as soon as I did that, there was this peace that came over me, because all of a sudden I said, you don't have to figure it out. Let it unfold. It'll be what it'll be, and it's all okay. And when you surrender, the way I said it, maybe it sounded like I give up, because at the point it felt a little exasperation. But the surrender is the surrender into the unknown, the surrender into God's will, the surrender into trusting God for the higher ideal for your life. So your hamster isn't doing anything for you. It really isn't. So if you can surrender it, you let it out of its cage, you let it go. And Amelia Earhart said, the most effective way to do it is to do it. The most effective way to do it is to do it. Some of us talk about, well, I'll do it when I get to it, or I'll do it later. And what they talk about is, you don't become a great musician, talent, if you just think about it. You got to do it. In the same way as our spiritual practice and our connection to God, you got to do it. You got to connect. You can't just think about it. You can't just read a bunch of books and say, oh, those beautiful thoughts. You got to actually practice it. You got to actually stop and make the connection. Make that divine circuitry work for you. So let me close by saying, Albert Einstein said, reality is merely an illusion, although a very persistent one. I like that. Reality is merely an illusion. It's all part of the play, right? Mm-hmm. And Nietzsche said, there are no facts, only interpretations. And to know that's true, all you have to do is get a bunch of witnesses together at an automobile accident scene and see how many different, you get different colored vans. It was a sports car, not a van. There were 3 people driving, not one. They didn't stop at the light. They ran the light. They get all kinds of things. So it's really interpretations, and it's really an illusion. And when we really know that, we understand how we can be part of this grand scheme that we call life. We came here to learn something. When I say learn, sometimes I don't mean that lessons should be hard, because I really don't. I have this deal with God that I'm through with the Missouri 2x4 across the forehead. I am into learning the softer, gentler way. And I believe that lessons can be easier. What makes them hard is our resistance. What makes them hard is our tendency to hold on to the past. What makes them hard is the fact that we don't trust God. We don't trust. Really, when we don't trust God, who are we not trusting? We're not trusting ourselves. We're not trusting ourselves to make the best decisions. But why not? Why not? What can possibly go wrong? It will all sort itself out. We just need to trust in the divine plan and the divine movie of your life. So it's your choice. What is playing next on your marquee of life? You choose the actors. You choose the play. You choose the location. You choose the drama. It's your choice. Thank you.